Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Broken Clock Tower Invitational Blind Elephant Game on Divine Masculinity. The Blind Elephant Game is based off of the old ancient wisdom of the five blind guys that grope the elephant. The elephant we're groping tonight is Divine Masculinity, as featured in this Jordan Peterson clip here.
Initiates, I should say, refer to ayahuasca as she, because the spirit of the plant is decidedly feminine. An encounter with ayahuasca is an encounter with the great mother of creation, the goddess, the void from which all things come, the feminine counterpart of Logos. Dr. Peterson, you appeared in one of my ayahuasca visions. Might account for why I've been rather fatigued lately. Dr. Peterson, you appeared in one of my ayahuasca visions, and I asked her, who is Jordan Peterson? What is he doing? Which is something I'd really like to know as well. And she responded with crystalline clarity. Quote, "Here, he is here to invoke and initiate the divine masculine principle on earth at this time."
So with that, fellas, let's grope the divine masculine principle. There's supposed to be another blind guy here groping with us, Federecci. He's standing us up. Better things to do. Who would like to grope the elephant first?
Maybe he got lost on his way over.
Maybe. Do you want to start the groping, Frag?
No.
No. Saint Sartori, you got this. You know about the divine masculine.
Well, I mean, I guess based on that, it's a bigger version of Jordan Peterson. I mean, if he's like the embodiment of the divine masculine.
Well,
or whatever.
I object. I'm pretty sure the quote is to invoke and initiate.
Oh, okay.
So he would not be representative of with the Kermit voice. But what is divine masculinity? Go.
Well, I mean, I think it's, I would say one aspect of it is a creative thing that is different from the way that, like, you know, we talk about women nurturing and bearing children. The masculine builds, you know, and it is a destructive sort of creation, because anytime you make anything, it means you have to cut something, or you have to break something down to make something new out of it. Like, you know, you got to cut down a tree, you got to break a rock. Even if you're making stuff out of cement, you know, it's like just rocks that have been broken down, and then you're just shaping it into what you want. But so I think that's, and I think maybe that thing of seeing like that sometimes it's necessary to inflict some, I wouldn't say damage, or I guess you could say damage or whatever, in for the sake of making something new and better, which is not the way that a feminine aspect would probably create something.
All right. So we have the first groping coming in as divine masculinity is breaking shit. Gavin.
And making stuff out of it.
Gavin, you ready to go? You got one?
I would prefer to go later.
But Demonstrate divine masculinity and go now.
Okay. All right. So, one thing that came to mind, I was trying to think about this. There's one thing. First of all, I grew up with men. My mom died when I was 2. So, and then I was trying to think about all the men I knew, and maybe some that were the best, the closest to the ideal. So I think about those things. And then, obviously, I think a lot of people in this little corner might mention Jesus. And so I can't help but think about when Jesus drew tables and chairs in the temple. And it always rubs me the wrong way a little bit, but there's a question. He's like, is that what the divine masculine does? Does the divine masculine, start throwing tables and chairs whenever the thing that is sacred is being mistreated? So that's the part of the divine masculine I don't know about. I'm open-minded about. But I think the divine masculine is a protector. Will help those around him grow. Like so a protector who's trying to make sure that those around them are growing, facilitating an environment that's conducive for the growth of people around them. So it's, it can't be overprotective, right? It has to allow people to experience pain and suffering, hopefully without permanent injury, but to be there and support them and encourage them when they experience that pain and suffering. So those are the things that come to mind. I think about the word husbandry. So that's what comes to mind whenever I hear the divine masculine.
All right. So there we have number 2 in the blind elephant divine masculinity groping. Protective husbandry. So we have breaking shit and building stuff out of it, and protective husbandry groping so far. Thank you for joining us, Federici. We're now the official 5 of the Broken Clock Tower Invitational Blind Elephant Game, Divine Masculinity Groping. Are you ready, Jed?
Sure, I could try. Well, I think it's a little bit of the trunk and the leg of what those guys have already said, for sure. And so I've been grabbing on this. Feels like might be a tail, so I'm about to probably make a total ass out of myself. But what I was thinking about was all of these kind of so some characters that come to mind are Adam, Noah, maybe even Abel, Moses, of course, Jesus, the Jesus dude, and then God in Job, as well as Job. So what little I know about these men is they're initiated by either the voice of God or intuition, to kind of move out of a comfortable spot, and to move into a kind of like what Sartori was saying, a creative place where they have to even wrestle with creating something anew, or in the same way that Gavin was talking about, like a protective home. And there's a willingness to do the absurd. And so it's interesting, Gavin, you're talking about when Jesus flips the tables. and you have a question around that. But as you're talking about that, I was thinking, had anybody ever done that before? And and maybe it was probably the most appropriate thing to do at that time, because like nobody else would say anything. So although I think a lot of people today would say, well, that's pretty damn feminine to throw a bitch fit like that. But then again, we also have our roles with feminine and masculine flipped around these days. So it might be a pretty masculine thing. Because I tell you what, anytime the men in my life who were raising me were provoked, whether it was rational or irrational, I think that's irrelevant. There wasn't a lot of thought put into their initial actions. It was impulsive, but probably, and maybe that's the divine masculine spirit. There is an impulsive nature to you know. But yeah, so like, yeah, I don't know. The ultimate masculine divine spirit, I think, is what Christ did. He was willing to say the thing that was difficult to say or for others to hear, but he was also willing to necessarily, for whatever reason that is, die for our by our poor actions and blindness, so that we might see something. Maybe, I don't know. So, yeah,
All right.
I mean, yeah.
So I'm taking.
Wake,
I'll add
yep.
your groping to the list of gropings as follows. We got Saint Sartori coming in with the groping of the breaking shit. Divine masculinity is breaking shit and building stuff out of the pieces. And then we got Gavin coming in with protective husbandry, and flipping the tables. And then we've got Chad coming in with it being divinely inspired, impulsive action up to and including self-sacrifice. And now the latecomer, Federecci, are you ready to grope divine masculinity? No.
I'm not ready, but
Grope away, divine masculinity. Ready, set, Jacob.
so what you guys have all said, and especially Grimm's little explanation of it, all goes along with things that are taught in Jewish mysticism about what is the particular masculine trait, which is Melech Poretz Gerder. That means that the king breaks through boundaries. And one aspect of the masculine, as opposed to the feminine, is that the feminine draws lines and creates connections and makes the boundaries, and the masculine breaks through them. Another aspect is that chokhmah, as opposed to bina, those are the quintessential sefirot, Kabbalistic attributes of God, which are called father and mother, chokhmah and bina.
Which one's the
And
father one again? Say it real hard.
chokhmah is father and bina is mother. And so chokhmah in the holy name is the yod. It's that small dot, right? It is koach ma. It is the strength of what? It is that spark of inspiration, that little seed that comes out of seemingly nowhere, And Bina is the Hey, so Yud K, right? That is itself one of the names of God. And the Hey has form, and that is the feminine aspect of taking that seed and gestating it, giving it form, giving it body. And the word bina actually has the same root as to build, bonnet. Yeah, so that's what I thought of.
All right, so I'm going to add yours as the divine spark of creation. So we have break shit, protective husbandry, uh, divinely inspired up self-sacrifice, action up to the point of self-sacrifice, and the creative spark. And now let me grope this divinely masculine elephant here. Hold on. Oh, the the divinity and the masculinity combine and then in such a way as to create the garden, the space in which everything that is worthy of protection and cherishing can bloom, up to and including the point of self-sacrifice in what it takes to secure the borders of the garden and nurture that there within. There's also gotta be the the putting of the difference between a boy and a man, the resistance to the desires, the self control. Um, the you have to be able to eat a lion as the divinely masculine, and in that case, the lion is the desires of your own flesh. So, like that level of personal sovereignty that allows the effective agency to be the protector and all the other roles that spring forth from obtaining the capacity of sovereignty over our own beasts within is my initial thoughts on divine masculinity.
I like that, Grim. The it's like you wouldn't be the divine masculine if you were possessed by some beast, you know, like we all are in our youth, right? So I like the comparison of the adult and the juvenile.
So if I had to chalk it in the list, it would be self-sovereignty. So breaking shit so we can build, protective husbandry, inspired
I think
action, the divine spark of creation, and self-sovereignty are from the first rounds of groping here on the Blind Elephant Game, the Broken Clock Tower Invitational. And since we've never done this before, um, what should we do now? Should we just spitball, see what happens?
yeah. So I was thinking, there's another thing with this. I think what's coming to mind is the element of necessary failure, and I think it's part of it. It can't be left off the table because I don't think it's incomplete. The divine masculinity is incomplete because, like, it has to be complete. There's a divine feminine. So yeah, I think it's one of the, and maybe how do I put that? Sometimes I think desires, though, they can be harmful and detrimental and all that stuff. There is an aspect of failure that and desire that can that can help move someone forward. And so I think that element can't be left out of it. That's what I picked up on after feeling on the elephant's ear.
So wait a minute. You're groping the elephant's ear, and you hear from the ear of the elephant that like part of divine masculinity is fucking up.
Yes.
Why can't that just be part of masculinity that's not included in the divine?
Well,
I mean, to the extent I can grant it to you, it would be if it qualifies as included in divine masculinity. It's like the capacity to move beyond the fear of fucking up,
well,
and then
partly,
as a result,
I can't.
I think I kind of understand. I think I understand, or I see a way where you're going with this, where I wouldn't say failure as such, but I think it's part of, like, in the creative process, you know, you don't just think of like the most amazing thing ever and you just make it. Like, there's always a process of like iterations. You know, you have to make prototypes, you have to make a thing, and then you break it and you make it better, and you break it and you make it better. And it was not that, like, and I think that, you know, because I think part of, like, you know, it's not like God made this world and said, "Oh crap, this one's got problems. We'll make a better world that's heaven instead, or the new heavens and the new earth, or whatever." Like, that was the one he planned to make, but he's showing the work. You know, like, you know, it's like he's showing us all the steps, all the things that go through to get to the ultimate place. Like, because. And I mean, without that, you have no context. You have no understanding, because then, you know.
oh, wait. Context and
compare it?
understanding. Context and understanding. Chad says part of being the divine masculine is fucking up, and Saint Sartori says, yeah, like that's why this place is such a mess, because God is showing us that messing up is divinely masculine.
I don't think that he's showing us that messing up is divinely masculine. I think that he's showing us, like, or, you know, basically, like, he created people, because, you know, we can't say it's not God by himself. Like, he made people and he made them and he wanted them to do, like, bad things, so much as he knew they were going to do bad things, or you know, and I think that was part of his plan to show us how it doesn't matter how bad we make things, how much we screw it up, he's still going to be able to fix it and put it back together. And you know, even like you look at the first, you know, beginning part of the Bible, it's like everything starts off good and then it gets messed up so quickly that you have him wiping the face of the earth clean of all living things except for Noah, you know, just right at the beginning. Like,
Okay.
Earth 1.0 lasted very little, but then he says, "Never again will I destroy the world with a flood," because it's like he started off with worst possible scenario of people wrecking the world, and Noah did a much better job than Adam did. And, you know, you can say that there is, you know, for all the disasters that have happened, like, humans are, I think, getting better at not wrecking the world.
All right. I'm sorry. Genesis is too far left for me right now.
But what about like Moses wandering the desert for 40 years? Is that not kind of like a failure to a degree?
No, because you see, you had to march all of the Jews into the desert, so the ones that knew the old ways would die off over the course of the 40 years as you're training your elite force of global middle management.
Yeah. He was making some Fremen.
He was. The Jewish people were the Fremen of their day.
And then what about
God, Jacob, say something, please. Pull this back on topic. We're a blind elephant, supposed to be groping divine masculinity, and now there's Fremen Jews. So redirect, would you, pal?
Well, I keep on going back to the sentence "Melech poretz geder," the king breaks boundaries, and I think there is always an aspect of ruin that is included in the masculine, of actually breaking and destruction that's just inherent to it. That I mean that sentence, like the more you guys talk, everything you talk about, just for me is like confirmation bias, adding things to that sentence of a king breaks boundaries.
All right, that sounds great. Gavin, do you have anything else for us?
Whenever you talk about failures, it makes me think of my relationship with my wife, and so and at work and in general, and just trying to learn when's the right time to be flexible, and when's the right time to hold my ground. Be willing to put up a fight for what's right. So it's tricky because you have to be humble enough to know that you will make failures, and to grow. And so that's definitely part of the process. So is it divine masculinity to be part of that process of learning and growing? Or is it divine masculinity when you reach some pinnacle, or maybe it's an unobtainable pinnacle? But yeah, I'd like to think that you can, as you approach divinity, your ability to do your error correction and identify your failures improves. So your rate of growth and learning improves, and then you get better at knowing when you need to hold your ground on things.
Well, I think that was fabulous. Ladies and gentlemen, we've now done the Broken Clock Tower Invitational Blind Elephant game on divine masculinity. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts any of you have? Chad, I know you got some.
I like pizza.
All right. Saint Sartori, anything from you?
I also like pizza.
You, everybody.
I mean,
Thank.
well, I was gonna say you got to break some eggs to make an omelet because that was kind of the masculine food that is being made here.
Egg smashing with the boys. Did we miss anything on divine masculinity? Let us
Yes,
know in the comments below, because the YouTube algorithm rewards us when you do. Chad, what, Chad?
it's not important. Maybe it is.